Thanks for clicking on the video. Hit us with a like on Facebook, a subscribe on YouTube, a follow on Instagram. You can find us at HOMIEandTheDUDE. That is at HOMIEandTheDUDE. Thanks again. Enjoy the video.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 34 of Homie and the Dude. This is our second podcast in season 2, and we are super psyched to have Arnold Almighty Allen with us. Arnold is the 9th ranked featherweight in the UFC right now. We can't wait to get into it with you, Arnold. Right before we start, we're just going to give a shout out to our sponsor, EnzoMartialArts.com. If you have any martial arts needs, Enzo Martial Arts is based in Bristol, England, but they'll ship out to anywhere in the world. There's also a promo code, 10% off if you announce HATD in the promo code. HATD stands for Homie and the Dude. Great. Arnold, welcome.
What's up?
What's up?
How you doing today, man? How you feeling? How you feeling about hitting training later? You feeling good to go hit some pads and stuff later?
I feel good. I woke up tired today though.
Yeah.
A hard day yesterday.
Yeah, it's a little bit of it's a little bit of like kind of feeling your body, understanding what days are harder days, what days are softer days. Seems like as we get older, like recovery is a real thing. Like when you're, I mean, like doing, what are you, 20? You're 26?
27 now, yeah.
You're an old man, dude.
Yeah, exactly. It's done. I'm done.
But it's true. Like as we get older, things that we didn't, even consider when we were younger, going out late at night or going, back day after day after day of hard workouts seem to bring our recovery back up just with a night's sleep. And then as we get a little bit older, those recovery days are important.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. It's all about the ice baths and the compression stuff and getting a good night's sleep now. I remember when I was like 20, you used to stay up all night playing games and eating crap. It didn't matter. But yeah, no.
Are you doing ice baths? Are you doing ice baths as a regular thing?
Yeah, I do a lot of the hot cold stuff, the hot bath, ice bath, sort of the contrast bath they call it. And I find it helps. It definitely helps. It sucks while you're doing it.
I was going to say, obviously, in the last couple of years, your regimen, I can imagine, has gotten a little bit more strict and a little bit more like focused and organized as, you've been working your way, through amateur kind of stuff and then getting into professional fighting and then being signed by the UFC and whatnot. I can imagine it's gotten a lot more regimented. Was the step from like Cage Warriors to the UFC like a big one for you in terms of like your mental kind of jump as well as also like physical training and stuff? Because obviously there's that saying, that there's levels to this shit. Was it a big level jump? Did you feel that when you entered the UFC?
Yeah, just like I always trained hard, to be honest. So even like before I was in the UFC, I probably trained harder than I do now, but not smarter, if that makes sense. I was just, like 4 sessions a day, strength and conditioning every day, like sparring, training, and just breaking my body down. And but on the same side, I wasn't doing the right things outside, like we said earlier. Like I was staying up all night. On the way home from training, I'd have a McDonald's, all that sort of stuff. So I wasn't professional in that sense. But the work ethic and training was always the same. Just not the work ethic with the recovery and the discipline and the diet, those sort of things.
Dude, it's every now and again at McDonald's is good, man. You gotta I mean, it's probably like after the fight.
That's it. Every now and then.
Every now and again. Like it's also like having a treat or a reward for all the just pain and suffering in a camp and then going through a fight. Do you have any like stuff that you're just like, you know what, I cannot wait? Like before a fight, you're thinking about something after the fight?
Yeah, you know what? I actually cheat. So even in camp, I cheat every Saturday. I have kind of whatever I want every Saturday. And so after the fight, the kind of cravings are just, they're not really there. There's nothing I'm craving for other than a pint of beer. That's about it.
Yeah. So to that point, how much weight do you cut to manage the cut on fight week?
So my rule is, so the fight week, if I come in at 160, I'm happy. So what's that? 14 pounds to get the 146. So usually I turn up 160 pounds the week of the fight. So 14 pounds a week.
Okay.
Wow.
And then walking around weight, what are you able to say?
Get up to about 180, 180. Yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
Okay.
After a fight, I like to do a lot of like heavy lifting, like slow grinding, heavy weights, and also eat a lot of food after the fight. So the combination is sort of, yeah. Like my brother and my dad are like strongmen. So when I go back to England, when I go home, I go train with them and we're lifting, eating, and trying to make some strength gains and inevitably getting fat as well.
That's, I was going to ask you, obviously, your whole origin is around, your dad being a fighter and then being a strongman and, you having this crazy gym in your back garden and, going and training with your brother and, having that like competition and whatnot. Obviously, something you mentioned was that your work ethic has always been there. But you've needed to learn how to train smart, basically, I read somewhere that you said, that you were kicked out of school and your dad said, it doesn't matter what you do, but you got to work hard. And I can imagine that kind of presence in your life really instilled that work ethic in a young age.
Yeah, for sure. And also like, I don't want to be a letdown, I don't want to just sort of be sat around and like obviously he helped me a lot with the training when it started and sort of, he didn't force me into doing anything, but like, he noticed that I was sort of working hard at it and he'd also helped me do the extra steps. So if it meant like driving me to a good training somewhere or lending me some money to get the train to go to the gym somewhere, things like that. So obviously I want to make it worthwhile.
Of course. And, obviously you've come full circle, in your most recent fight with Nick Lentz, your dad was in your corner, which is pretty awesome. You've come from, him starting to help you at the beginning to now you're in the big leagues, you're ranked, you're in the top 10 and your dad's in your corner watching you fight. Was that a pretty, I can imagine that was a pretty emotional and beautiful experience for you to have him there for one of your big fights.
Yeah, it's amazing having him in the corner, So a lot of my amateur fights when I was younger, he was in the corner. Some fights in the early pros, he was in the corner. And then just, for whatever reason, I think traveling and then all this, and it just sort of never was. And then one day, I think one of my coaches was supposed to come to my fight and his flight got cancelled last minute, so he couldn't make it. So I was like, oh, well, my dad's here, he'll be in the corner. And ever since then, I'm like, why is he not in the corner anyway?
Yeah.
Nice.
So,
Going forward, he's going to be there. Yeah.
Looks like you guys have a like he's a big character. Your dad's we see him, you see him in the press conferences or in interviews. He seems like he's just a big, not just physically a big presence, but also his personality. He's a big presence. But you mentioned you don't want to let him down, or you don't want to let people down, and you're making an insane sacrifice to literally pick your life up. You're on a different continent. You're chasing this dream. There's been a bit of complications as far as getting an actual fight. Talk a little bit about just this, like not wanting to let people down and the huge commitment you're making, because from our perspective, it's insane.
Like in some senses it is a sacrifice, but at the same time, it's like I'm living the dream. I call my dad every week and we speak, and he's like, everything's the same here. I'm out in the truck, keep doing you. So okay. Yeah, like sometimes you miss home a bit, and he's like, you're not missing nothing. It's the same old thing. Keep working. So I'm like, sometimes it's hard to realize that, that you work hard in the gym and training. It's not the easiest, but there's worse options out there.
Sure.
Yeah.
And you've probably built a bit of a bubble around you of people, of friends. Your missus is out there.
That's it.
And your coaches, you're like MMA world. A big part of it now has been transported to Canada.
Yeah, that's it. And obviously, you guys know Jack, don't you? Obviously, and we still speak every day and send in sparring videos and talk training and whatnot. So, it's still like a home.
I was going to ask you about that because you're getting like actual physical training, whether it's through Ferraz or through other coaches that you have. And that's cool. But there's also like this element of just needing to talk to someone about stuff, and especially, within the fight game about keeping you motivated, keeping you positive, keeping you on the path? Is Jack the guy?
Yeah, he's the man. He's more than that. He's he's a tactician. He's a manager, a coach, advisor in more fields than just the MMA thing, outside too. So yeah,
Nice.
It's good.
Nice.
It's good to have that kind of person in your corner,
Yeah.
fighting for your back, as well as then you fighting in the cage. They've got your back and they're supporting you. So I can imagine that having that kind of presence is really helping. I mean,
yeah.
obviously, Arnold, we've got to ask, how has it been moving your camp to a legendary gym and training under Firaz Zahabi? How has that been? How has that experience been in that kind of world for you?
Yeah, it's unreal, to be honest. Like when I first came in, obviously it wasn't a pandemic, so there was all guys coming in, like top level pros coming in to spar every week. There was the amount of UFC, Bellator, Strikeforce, well, actually not anymore, but all these top elite guys like coming through every week to spar and train, champions of like promotions and black belts here and there. And it was just like spoiled for choice on like what high level guy you work with, Sometimes in the UK, in the smaller gyms, you'll go to a gym, there's like, you've got one guy who's sort of top tier, then you've got one black belt over here, and yeah. But here I'm spoiled for choice on that sort of stuff. And the connections I've made, like friends, obviously now they're friends for life. I got places to train all over the world. I got, friends in the US, friends in like Asia, friends everywhere, all over Europe. So there's places I could train everywhere. That is great.
So
That's awesome.
how's that breaking down for you as far as with COVID? You had the gym, you had a place where a hub where everyone could go. Now everyone is sort of spread out. How does that work? Who are you seeing? Talk us through that a little bit.
Yeah, so a lot of the training is, the gyms are shut here in Montreal, so a lot of the training is kind of like underground and like private, one-on-one sort of stuff like that. And yeah, so just making it work. With the fitness side of things, obviously, all you need is a bit of road and you can run and whatnot. Yeah. So but just making it work, that's it.
So when you say underground, is there actual like regulations that you guys have to be in some sort of isolation, or is it just trying to find people that are up for training?
Yeah, literally just trying to find people up for training in a legal sense, some place that isn't a gym, I guess.
Yeah, fully appreciate that, dude. And during this time, especially because I know Canada's pretty on it with COVID and their kind of measures. I mean, I won't say the UK's on it, but we're in. It seems like we're in constant lockdowns here as well. So I can appreciate that whole like need for the physical training part is quite hard. I want to ask just to kind of get an idea of myself. How much of your training pre-COVID? What was the percentages of what you're doing like on a weekly basis? Are you doing like 50% striking, 50% ground, or are you doing like 40 stand up, 30 ground, 10 jiu-jitsu? What's your kind of ratios?
Yeah, so it's pretty mixed, to be honest. Like the gym itself is obviously, I don't know if you guys follow like the jiu-jitsu scene and all that, but there's a lot of like high level jiu-jitsu guys that come in. Obviously they train at Henzo's as well, with like Gordon Ryan and that lot. But they all come here, they travel to New York. I think they're all in Puerto Rico now. So there's a very high level of like no-gi jiu-jitsu competitors. But like also I kind of make my own schedule as well around that. I work with 2 striking coaches I train with, and there's an Olympic silver medalist wrestling coach, Kia Sisori, I work with every week. And he's been like unreal adding to my game. Obviously, with COVID, I haven't been working with him for a while, but he's a game changer, really.
Yeah,
and he's more of an American grappler or wrestler. So that's the sort of style that he has, right?
Yeah, so he's a freestyle wrestler. He was a silver medalist in, I think it was, I can't remember which Olympics it was, 99 maybe, 97? No, 98. I don't know. I can't remember the year. But yeah, it was, I think he got a silver against, is it Kendall Cross?
Yeah. And he beat then he beat Cross like a few times that year, and then and then he lost to him in for the medal.
Yeah, exactly. That's it.
Yeah.
And I think so. He injured his knee, like he blew his ACL or something, and he said the option was to have surgery and not go to the Olympics, or tape it up and go to the Olympics. So he's like, yeah, I'm going to the Olympics. But yeah.
Wow.
The whole wrestling scene in America, you hear it over and over again by different, whether it's MMA pundits or actual fighters. There's something about that, the whole work ethic that it just takes to be a wrestler. They're cutting weight, they're out wrestling almost every weekend.
Yeah.
There's something about it that it's also similar to like the Dagestani, the feel there.
Right.
You get a sense of is that something that you assess as well? Those guys are made a little bit differently.
Yeah, like well, he's Georgian, so he comes from back there, in those days.
Yeah.
And like he tells us some stories of the training and like how he was training. And when he came to Canada, like he said the same sort of thing as me. It was like this is a dream. He's getting paid to train to compete as kind of like a professional, I guess. And yeah, you don't want to squander that opportunity, do you? So you have to sort of check yourself to realize how lucky you are sometimes in that you get to do what you love every day, and that's how you make your living.
Yeah, it's for sure. It's definitely something. And we spoke to an Olympian judoka, and he said the same thing. He said a lot of people from out that kind of way are very much like high level athletes because they do train really hard. In some cases, in squalid conditions that mean that it pushes them to be even harder.
Yeah.
Interestingly, you just said, you haven't trained with this wrestling coach for a while because of COVID and whatnot. And a big part of, the story that is going around with you is this wanting a fight that is of either named or ranked position and struggling to make it happen with people dropping out or things falling through and, different pieces happening. I wanted to ask, how much are you kind of thinking about the amount of time that you have had off? And with COVID now happening and you distancing yourself from some of your coaches, are you worried about the ring rust when you come back? Or is that something on your mind, or are you just focusing about getting that fight and then driving towards it?
Yeah, no, I'm not worried really, because like I said, I'm making ways to train and I'm figuring it out, and there's no corners being cut. But I feel like the ring rust comes from like people being outside of the gym. They're out of, like McGregor, he said it was inactivity, and obviously, that plays a big part. But also, I don't know if he was training all year round. Seriously, he trained very hard for a camp. He trained very hard for maybe 10 weeks at a time, but he was probably out of the gym, not training, not sparring for the rest of the year. So I think that's where the ring rust comes from, not the period between the fight. And I've had 17 pro fights, but I've had maybe 40, near 50 fights overall. So I know how to fight. It's all good. And I've had that time out of the ring before, so it's never been an issue.
That's nice to hear. That's really nice to hear, and definitely fills me with some confidence to see you get back in the ring, dude. I'm glad to hear that you're confident in that way. Tom, sorry for interrupting you, dude.
No, it's Dominic Cruz talks about that as well. Almost exactly what you said, Arnold, which is he totally doesn't believe there's ring rust if you're in the gym. If you're just if you're training, you're keeping sharp. One thing though that just come out recently, I want to get your thoughts on, because I know you've trained, you've had 40, 50 fights in your life. You've sparred a hell of a lot. You've boxed a bit. You talked recently about, just wanting to manage the amount of damage your body takes, right? And including, your body from the neck down and, your head.
Yeah.
We heard Max Holloway this past year talking about couple things. One, he was training basically over Zoom with his trainer. So that's the whole COVID thing. But the other thing was his last two fights. So the second Volkanovski fight and the Kattar fight, he did not spar at all. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, if it is true, which I'm not 100% sure that is true, he's so experienced. He's had so many fights, and I've seen the way those guys spar before. I've seen them sparring, footage of it. They spar like crazy. They go to war. So it's the extreme, isn't it? Because they spar so hard every time they go into war. Like, he's taking so much damage in the gym that, yeah, okay, maybe they're not going to spar all the time. But like, if you're sparring moderately and smart, then you can do it consistently. I think it was Bernard Hopkins. He used to spar, and he fought what, to his 47, I think he did.
Yeah.
And he would get hit with a clean shot in sparring, and he would be furious that someone caught him. You know, that would ruin his day. You know, like, oh, I got caught with a shot today. But obviously, it's different MMA. There's all sorts of different things, but that is sometimes like the outlook could go. Because like, some days it's like, right, today I'm gonna pressure this guy. I'm gonna push forward. I'm gonna work my wrist. I'm gonna score takedowns. And some days I come in, I'm like, right, I don't want to get hit today. Like, no one's landing clean. Like, it doesn't matter what happens. I'm defending, blocking. I'm getting out of the way. So it's all about playing games, I think. So you can't every time be like, right, I'm turning up and I'm pressuring and I'm going to war today. Because then you're going to age in the gym, obviously. But I think the key is always to play games. You know, today is in and out, in and out. Like, today I'm blocking. Today I'm getting out of the way. And some days, if you feel good, then right, I'm getting stuck in.
Yeah. So just little mini objectives for the workout. You know,
Yeah.
if I'm a striking workout, that's really cool how because I hadn't really considered that, but you know, having an objective of I'm not going to get hit cleanly today, really kind of emphasizes your head movement, your body movement, you know, level changes, distance management, all that stuff. That's completely different than let's just mix it up. Let me just get in there and have a like a real sparring session, which means, you know, I'm much more offensive minded, and to be more offensive minded, I'm putting myself more at risk.
Yeah, that's it, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's actually something I noticed with like a lot of the younger guys now, like training, sparring. Now I'm one of the old guys. You ask how the sparring is, and they're like, oh, you know, I feel like I lost that round, or, you know, maybe I did good in this round, or maybe won that round. I said, no, you don't win sparring. It's like, what did you learn? Like, what did you work on? What did you fix? You know, that's how I feel for sparring.
Do you know what? Do you feel like, you know, you're talking to these younger guys? Do you feel like, because I know for me, I as a young man stepping into like my 20s, you know, I was kind of finding my own track, living on my own, you know, working a job, you know, all that kind of stuff. It wasn't until I became like a manager of a place, and I was running other people, and I was like worrying about people below me and making sure that they were happy and all this kind of stuff, and giving advice on work that I'd been doing for X amount of time that someone new didn't know much about. It really developed me as a person, and as the skills within the job itself developed because I was teaching them to other people. Do you find that when you do have these new guys coming into this gym, obviously, you know, you're still super young, you're still very much like in the early stages of your like career, if you wanted it to be, for example, and I'm not in any way saying that you're one of the old guys, you know, the gym, but I can imagine there's young guys who come in looking up to you as, you know, the 9th ranked guy and ask you some questions. So do you feel like that helps you?
Yeah, for sure. And especially like, you know, helping people, definitely, it helps your game too, you know, because then you have to really, you think, like you said, you've been in that situation, and maybe it becomes easy to you. So then when you rethink about it and you have to sort of dig deeper into like what it is, and you sort of relearn it yourself again. So definitely helps to sort of retell someone or revisit it and help someone out.
Yeah, there's actually science behind that. That is, you have a level of knowing something. So let's say it's like a jiu-jitsu submission move, right?
Yeah.
So let's say like your ninja choke that we've seen it a couple times, right?
Yeah.
So you know that, right? You know how to do it instinctively. If someone gets in that position, you lock it in. The next level of really understanding it is to teach it to someone, to teach the finer details of it to someone, which then unlocks other shit for you as well. And you're almost like, oh shit, so I actually have to make sure that this person's foot is here, his shoulder leans in. That's when I drop it. You know what I mean? That's when I bring my arm up. All that is sort of like solidifying learning in the end. Do you find that when you're actually teaching stuff?
Yeah, so absolutely. When I was like, obviously when I'm spending more time back home, well, I travel more when there's no pandemic going on, but I coach a lot more. And before I was coming here, I would always, you know, I would teach the amateur team. I would train a lot of the guys, people, you know, like hobbyists that just want to get fit and whatnot. I would train all sorts of people. So you'd always have to sort of think about what you're teaching, and the technique you learn, like, it's not just about how to apply it, it would also be how to teach it. And like you said, you learn it in two ways, sort of, and obviously you get a better understanding of it, of how it works.
Nice.
No, that's absolutely awesome. And you know, Tom mentioned a second ago, Max Holloway, and I wanted to just bring up, obviously, ahead of you, you're the number 9th ranked fighter at the moment in the featherweight division, and you're an absolute badass. But ahead of you is a murderer's row of who's who of featherweights, you know, from around the world. How are you feeling about what you've got ahead of you? Are you excited to face some of these guys that are revered as, you know, some of the greatest to ever touch the sport?
Yeah, 100%. That's exactly what I want. I want those tough tests. I want those big names, and yeah, I guess that's why I'm waiting, because that's what I'm waiting for. You know, hopefully the wait is worth it, and that's what we get. But yeah, they're the guys I watch. They're the guys, you know, when I'm visualizing and you know, planning for the future. That's what I want, and you know, they put me number 9, so I feel like I should be in a position now to warrant one of those. And obviously, we're supposed to fight Jeremy Stevens, and in 2020 we were supposed to fight Stevens and Emmett, and they both got injured. But yeah, I'm sure they'll get rescheduled in future.
Yeah, obviously the Gilbert Melendez fight was one that you were hoping to kind of, you know, boost you a little bit, because Gilbert was, you know, a big guy, and you pretty much retired him at that point. So that's a big thing, you know, and it definitely put you massively on my map. You know, I definitely noticed that when that went down. And so, you know, dude, I think it's only a matter of time. And not to mention, like, you're one of the few English fighters who are like succeeding in the UFC. Like, there's a bunch of like UK based fighters, whether they're Ireland, Scottish, you know, Welsh, English, in the UFC, but you know, there's a select few that are in those top rankings. So I think it is just a matter of time, just like with Leon Edwards, just like with Darren Till. You know, they got their bite, and their careers then have progressed a lot faster since then. I reckon you're a step away, you're nose whiskers away from getting that break, you know, and fully deserving of it, with seven wins, no losses in the UFC as well.
Cheers, man.
Thanks for watching this episode. We really appreciate you supporting Homie and the Dude.
Please hit us with the Holy Trinity, like our Facebook page, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and follow us on Instagram. Just search @HOMIEandTheDUDE. It all really helps.
Yeah, I also think like Leon Edwards is a really good example, Bodie, that you mentioned, because he's on a similar path as you, it seems like. So he's had this long win streak. He is, you know, everybody knows he's absolutely dangerous. He's a killer, right? No one really wants to fight him that's above him, right? So you know, it's kind of like your situation. So what does he do? He ends up saying, all right, if the guys above me are sort of resisting, or they're slow to give me an offer, I'm just going to go for a name. And even if the name's below me, I'm gonna go for it. And I actually think it's a wise decision. Like, you know, Khamzat is got some juice behind him right now. You know, he's in the press, and you know, his Instagram is blowing up and all this other stuff. He's not even in the top 10. It's definitely a huge step down for Leon. But you can tell that if Leon wins this fight, it will probably be, I won't say, it'll probably be just as effective or more effective if he beats someone below him in the top 10.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I agree.
So question to you is, there's some guys below you. Like, I'm not suggesting that that's where you want to go, because you want to go up, right? You want, you know, you want Cater, you want Zombie, or you want, you know, you want one of those guys, you want Zavit, someone to just offer you the fight. But if you're, you know, again, we're looking at your career, you're 27, you're still a young guy, but you're entering into the prime years of your life. Is there someone below you that you're like, look, if I just want to fight against someone that's going to progress me, whether because you know, the rankings are just a number, right? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, like, it's definitely something I've looked into, and like, like if the right fights are there, then 100%. There's names like obviously there was like Aldo. People like Aldo were in the weight, but he's gone down now. People like Swanson, you know, he's a huge name. He's done everything. But yeah, definitely something like that. It's something that would be worthwhile, you know, a veteran, someone with a big name, fought everyone, been a champion of this. Yeah, like 100%. That's in there.
You mentioned Barbosa as well earlier. That was trying to happen, what, in December?
Yeah, because so when my fight fell off in November, we were looking at options, like something good to take. And then I saw him saying he wanted to fight in December, but I think he was having contract issues, and I think he's on his last fight. He wants to renegotiate, or so for whatever reason, I didn't have. Yeah. So, but yeah, something like that. Like his last, obviously he was on a bit of a loss, but he lost to all elite lightweights in decisions mainly. So.
I was gonna say, so if we were to look at these guys, I want to just do a little game here. So Barbosa's definitely, like, he would be one. Cub Swanson, another one. Ryan Hall, is that sort of sideways, or is that?
No, like he's a Tristar guy as well. So when he's in Canada, so yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about?
So it'd be like fighting a brother, right? I feel that that's a harder one. Yeah, I think your point is interesting. That if the name is there, you'll take it. And I know, Tom, you were going to mention like Bryce Mitchell and a few other people who are like up and comers within the division who are making a name for themselves. I think again, dude, like you like we said, you've been in there with some of the greats. Gilbert Melendez is honestly one of the greatest fighters of all time, and for you to have retired him is a pretty staggering thing. So I think in terms of movement, I know me and Tom have got our fingers crossed for you to have something, and we want to see you display what we know you have against one of the guys who will validate that for you within the eyes of the rest of the audience.
Yeah, and that also obviously, I want to fight a name or someone like you said, like a Swanson or something like that, or better than that, like someone top 10 or something like that. But one of the criticisms I get after every fight, now obviously I'm 7-0 every time. Since I was like 3-0, everyone was like, "Oh, when's he gonna fight a top 15 guy? When's he gonna fight top 50? Like, when's he gonna fight a ranked guy?" I'm like, I'm trying every fight. So it's like, I was supposed to fight Emmett. Obviously, I ended up fighting Nick Lentz, and then all the criticism was like, "Yeah, but when's he gonna fight a ranked guy?" Like, oh well, okay. Then we get the Stevens fight, and then he gets injured. Obviously, everyone's like, "Oh, he's still gonna fight a ranked guy still." So
yeah. So how is that, man? Because you've got to fight against a ranked guy. It's in the calendar. It's leading up to the fight. You're in camp. You're getting your mind ready for it, and all of a sudden, last minute, it gets yanked. Is there a dip? Is there like do you have a bit of a mental or a physical, just like, oh, and then you ramp up again, or are you able to just put it aside and just keep marching on?
Yeah, it's very frustrating because it's with the Stevens fight, it was like everything I wanted. He was ranked above me. It was the name I wanted. He was, he's one of the most dangerous guys like in the division, regardless of his losing streak. He can knock anyone out, and he has knocked a lot of everyone's out. So there was that dangerous challenge that I wanted, and I felt like I deserved to get. And that was obviously there's a clear mark right now to put you into the elite. All the guys that have beaten him recently have gone on to be top 5, top 6 guys right now. And that was exactly what I wanted. And so there was a little bit of frustration and obviously being annoyed, but after a couple of days, just sort of regroup and get on with it.
Yeah. Kicking the dog,
lick some emotional wounds and move on a little bit. Yeah, I think honestly, you've got the right headspace as well. Like, it's interesting. Some people in your position, and we've seen it happen with, a great example is Colby Covington. Some people in your position that are frustrated by the lack of fights and stuff turn into, this crazy personality and like can almost throw dirt on all the amazing stuff that they've done in the past in terms of their reputation and stuff.
Yeah.
Just to get the fights because they're making noise now. And I think honestly, dude, I respect you massively for being as humble as you are and being as respectful and down to earth as you are. And I think, again, I love the fact that you mentioned earlier, that you talk to your dad every week and you're like, I miss you. And he's like, hey, everything's the same here. You keep kicking ass and doing your thing, and to me, that's the type of thing that really like allows for that kind of personality to exist. I'm not sure if you know, but Tom is my dad, and we're father and son. And so I get that, dude. You know, having, you know, when I used to play basketball, having Tom tell me, you know, before a game, hey, win or lose, just go out there, give it hell, I love you, you know, kind of thing. It changes your perspective, and it makes you feel something, you know, very different. And I'm not saying that Colby Covington isn't getting that, but, you know, it's nice to see that you haven't gone down that path of like, fuck it, I'm going to be a publicity whore, you know, to get what I can.
No, but yeah, exactly. But definitely one thing I have to do after, when I do finally get a fight, is ask for another one, at least. Because I have to have a plan and be like, I'm always sort of, you know, living in the moment. I'm like, I'm only focused on this fight right now. And then they ask me after, like, what do you want next? I'm like, I don't even know. I haven't thought about it. And,
yeah, I'm always a little bit like, I'm not sure where I am with the call out after the fight. Because at some point I'm like, dude, just let the guy celebrate, enjoy that they just went like life and death with this dude like 5 minutes ago. Just let him take a breath, you know, go and hug their loved ones, and then think about the next fight tomorrow. There is that, but the other side of it is like, you know, we saw it with Michael Chandler this past weekend, where, you know, he was just like outrageous after he won the fight and just calling people out and all this other stuff. So there's a bit of like the business side of things as well, isn't there? Like, even if
100%.
that you got to kind of think about.
And I find like, if you don't like make noise and like scream that you want someone, maybe they just assume like you don't want to fight next, so you just want to wait. I don't know. I guess that's kind of the pattern of my career, because I don't really ever call anyone out. I'm always just like, oh, who's next? I don't know, whoever. And and then I end up waiting a year. I'm still hanging about. Yeah.
So we should expect to see a much more animated version of you at the end of the fight, actually.
Yeah. Well, still humble. Maybe gonna get the most polite call out ever or something like
that. Don't jump off the top rail, because
yeah. Please fight this guy.
Can you talk about like that interaction with the UFC? Because I'm picturing I guess I'm picturing one-way traffic. Basically, you know, it's almost like this hidden fortress where at some point a phone call will come to your management and say, yo, does Arnold want to fight this person? And you'll talk to your management, and you'll either come up with a yes or no, and they'll say, great, or okay, that's fine. Phone closes and the door shuts again. Is it kind of like that, and then it opens with something else, or is there more of an interaction?
I think there's more of an interaction, but yeah, it does. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like that, isn't it? Like, there's us, I guess, chasing and asking and be like, oh, is there any fights? And eventually getting an answer. But yeah, so yeah, in a way, it's like what you say.
Yeah, you know, it's the UFC's political kind of situation in terms of how they're dealing with fighters and how fighters are being dealt with is quite interesting. And do you know what, honestly, for me, the biggest kind of example of that going on at the moment is with the Khabib thing. You know, Dana trying to push him to come back, and him being like, no, you know, me and Tom talked about this. We did a live stream for the fights the other night, and afterwards we watched Dana's press conference, and he was like the most depressed, like, shell of himself I've ever seen after McGregor lost. And I was just like, you know, you can tell that this man is very much about the money, like that a lot of what is on his mind is the money and what he's going to be making, and how the results of what he's seeing in front of him on the night are kind of playing out forwards. And I think, you know, it's a hard thing that they have to manage, the UFC, between like humility and financial like gain and whatnot. So I can imagine that that's a bit of a hard one for them. Do you find yourself, though, do you find that you're like, you get the resources that you need, you get the like stuff you need from the UFC? Are they at least accommodating for you in that kind of way?
Yeah, for sure. Like, they are. And I mean, it's no secret that it's an entertainment business, isn't it? It is what it is. If you're interested and people want to watch you, people are going to pay to watch you. And that's been the thing from the beginning of time. You know, even if like Ali, people wanted to watch Muhammad Ali because, you know, he was talking, he was causing all the things he was doing outside the ring. You know, people wanted to watch him. So yeah, there's definitely that. And what was it? Someone always say, if you're not interested in yourself, like you don't want to talk about yourself fighting, then why should other people be interested? And yeah, that always clicked well. And I think definitely, like, I don't really like to say things about me as a fighter, and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. But it's true. Like, if you don't act like you're excited to fight or interested, then why do people want to think that you want to fight, or why would people want to see you fight?
It is a good point. And I mean, I would say you're in the group that you show the interest in yourself by what happens in the octagon, right? You show how serious you are in the sport by how you deal with your competition. And that speaks sometimes, that is much more of a stronger message than someone harping off with the microphone about, they want this and they want that and that type of thing. But Bodie mentioned something that I wanted to kind of circle back to. I am on the understanding that when you're in Canada, basically you're paying for your livelihood, you're paying for your training. So, the amount of time it takes for you to get your next fight, that's just like, that's exhausting a little bit of your resources, isn't it? As you're waiting. I mean, they're not supplementing you in any way, or are they, because they promise you a certain amount of fights a year and those don't happen?
No.
No, I didn't think so.
No.
Yeah. But here's the other thing. Let's say if you were in Las Vegas, would you be able to take advantage of all their shit at the Performance Institute, or is that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's 100% accessible. I can bring a couple of teammates to train with me as well. Use all the facilities, the physios, the rehab center, the conditioning coaches. I think the food's free as well, all sorts. So there's definitely a lot of benefits of being there.
Have you found that a lot of fighters have decided, look, it's just financially better to, instead of having to pay for everything, all my workouts, all my coaches, my house, my food, my entertainment, all that stuff, just to go there? Do you feel like there's a big cluster of fighters that are moving to Vegas?
Definitely. There's definitely a lot going there. And, I considered going out there for a bit because of the COVID thing, but I just need to it's awkward because there's so many people gone there right now. There's so many gyms there as well. It's hard to know which one there isn't someone that I might end up fighting at. So I'm like, oh, look at this gym, this would be good. And then, oh no, the number 10 guy's there. I want to go here, and this guy's over there. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, that's super interesting, dude. So you basically have to kind of make decisions on, because you have situations where Masvidal and Dustin Poirier are in the same gym, but they're in different weight classes. But you have other situations where you have two guys that are in the same gym, like Ryan Hall, you said. I guess there's a bit of a, like, I don't want to be in the same gym as someone that I may have to face at some point. Is that your philosophy?
I was gonna say, is that a strategy thing? Is that so that they don't like get a chance to like work you out, or is that so that you guys that you don't form like a bond, so that it's easier to get in the ring and just like wing punches at them? What's the reason behind that?
Yeah, I never really fought for the reason. I just thought it's probably just awkward, isn't it? Be a bit strange. But also because we have obviously Ryan Hall comes here to do his camps and stuff, and Masad Bekdik moved out here a couple of years back, and me and Masad were supposed to fight in maybe 2017, I want to say 2016, and I got sick, and then after he wanted to come out here to train, and like Ferraz asked if it's cool, we're both cool with it obviously, and it's the rule, we don't fight ever, so that's it.
Okay, cool. So you guys make a bit of a pact. Look, if we're going to train together, then we're never going to fight. We're never going to fight.
Yeah, not even in words. It's not even said. It's just we're not.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And do you know what's? I must admit, Alan, Arnold, I love your answer of just thought it'd be a bit awkward. That is the most British thing like I've ever. Just thought it'd be a bit awkward. Fully agree with that, dude. Like. Yeah, you could imagine standing across from a guy that you like train with, and you're like, "Yeah, this is a bit uncomfortable." And Bruce Buffer's screaming at us both, and we're both just like, "Yeah."
Speaking of that, go ahead, Arnold.
I always thought like if the situation ever came up, and like I want it to be at least for a title or something, like at least because then obviously then you could be like, all right, we've worked our whole lives to this moment, we're not gonna throw it away for that. It has to be something like that, doesn't it? And there's plenty of people out there.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of examples. So you got Masvidal and Covington. I think actually Burns and Usman are out of the same gym, aren't they?
That's it, yeah.
Yeah, so they're fighting for a championship. Covington and Masvidal aren't going to fight for a championship, but if they do fight, it's going to be a big, big thing. So you want to wait. If it's going to happen, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it for something worthwhile.
Yeah, that's it. It's got to be, I don't know, big money, a title fight or something, you know what I mean? Like something worthwhile.
Yeah.
There's got to be motivation to punch someone that you mutually respect in the face. Like there's got to be some ulterior motivation. Like I get that. It's like you wouldn't turn around to a guy that you work with in any normal job and be like, yo, let's throw down today. Like, but if someone turned up to me and was like, hey, here's a couple grand, go punch him, I'd be like, oh, okay, that's a different, that's a whole nother scenario. We gotta talk about that then.
Speaking of that, so Bodhi, you mentioned, it was a British thing. So a couple things about a British thing. One is how you cope in North America with people that don't really understand British humor. Because I'm American. Bodhi has grown up British, so he knows the flavor of British humor. American humor is more slapstick or whatever. But any experience with that? You're just like, wow, they just don't understand what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's the added thing here because obviously it's Quebec, so it's French made, isn't it? So yeah, a lot of the time they really don't understand what I'm talking about, and I'm just like, don't worry. Actually, the funniest thing that happened was in the gym. So GSP was fighting Bisping, and Bisping was obviously putting on a show, calling them all sorts of names. And I remember I was in the gym for one of his last sparring, and Bisping came up to, George came up to me by the water fountain. He said, "Hey Harney, hey Harney, Michael called me a toi. What is this?" And I'm like, "Oh, what? A toi?" I'm like, "Oh, he's called you a twat." And he's like, oh, okay. He was like asking me what it was. I had to just explain to him, and he's just like, oh, he just looked like, oh, okay. It was pretty funny. I was like, oh, yeah.
You had to be his translator for UK English. That's funny.
That's great. Let me ask. Obviously, GSP is one of the considered. He's often brought up in the GOAT conversation.
Yeah.
Does being in his presence, does knowing him personally and being able to, in some cases, get some tips off of him or whatnot, is that like a fountain of knowledge that you are just like happy to run into anytime?
Yeah, it's So obviously he hasn't. Well, obviously there's been how long is it since the Bisping fight? Was that 2018?
Yeah, it's been a long time.
So he hasn't really. I don't know if he's sparred. He's been in the gym, obviously not now, but in the gym. He's a real professional. He trains always. He's not sparring, but he's always training. But before that, he was sparring and doing bits here and there. When I first came, obviously he was still a little bit. He wasn't kind of retired. He was semi-retired, so he was sparring often. But every time you get the opportunity to work with him and spar with him, it's like you'll learn something, and you'll just see.
No, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
You just get to sort of feel that level,
So what are some things about him that you've taken away from him? Because I picture him, like the image you get of him is that he's a consummate professional as far as like, all aspects of MMA, but also just his work ethic and his diet and his mental and all this other stuff. What are some things that you feel have really benefited you by being either with him or just Ferraz or some of the other killers in the gym?
Just little things, little technical tips. Like if you if you wrestle with him, obviously, and he'll give you a tip here. If it comes from the guy that's like arguably number one ever, it sort of sits with you a little bit longer or a little bit stronger than most things, rather than someone else saying it, it sits in your head and it sort of means a bit more. So yeah, and having like shared rounds with him and done stuff, and it gives you a lot of confidence.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So you're like, let's say you're 170, 180. He's walking around at what, 200-ish or maybe right around there?
So when we would spar more, he was kind of like, he was doing like intermittent fasting and he was trying to drop weight. I think there was talks of him going to 155 at that time. And
okay.
So he was like 190 something. So he wasn't that heavy, yeah.
So
I remember he's not that big, and then he was like, oh, he was fasting, he's trying to drop weight and all this. So
yeah, okay, nice.
You see stuff on Instagram where he's stripping down, trying to get to that that lower weight.
Yeah.
That's awesome, dude. That you've to me the biggest thing, dude, that I love about you and your whole story is that you came from a backyard and you've elevated yourself out of the UK, which in some ways is an amazing place to learn and like develop your skills. But like you said, there's a level of training. Like you said, some of the gyms only have one black belt. They have one top level guy, and you've elevated yourself out of that into the this next kind of stratosphere of work. And so, dude, I think ahead of us, you've got a lot of bright stuff ahead of you because of this work ethic that you're putting in and the good decisions that you're making. It feels like you've got some good people around you helping you make some good decisions and keeping you on track.
I think that's the key, innit? I think if it was just me, I'd be making some terrible ones.
I don't know, dude. I mean, I think of other guys in the UK that have a lot of talent or have some skills or whatever, and they're kind of they're bigger fish in a smaller pond, and you got to make a risk. You got to jump, right? You gotta put yourself in a position where you're a little bit more vulnerable, where you're going to be the new person. You're not going to know as much, and that's a hard thing to do, right? And
for sure.
and it's hard to do even like within the UK to just go to a bigger gym in the UK, go to London, go to Liverpool, go wherever, go to Ireland. You actually, you packed your bags, you said goodbye to your family and travel across the world to chase this dream. And don't underestimate that, dude. That's an amazing commitment, and not a lot of people do that. And you did that, man. So yeah, awesome work on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, for sure. I just wanted to ask you, one kind of final thing for me. If you did, we were talking about you needing to call some people out. If there was someone ahead, who do you want next, dude? Who's the person that you're gonna push into your limelight, and who, in your mind, when you go to sleep, you're like, oh, I'm coming for you next?
Like the one guy, which I feel like I probably won't get, is a Korean Zombie, because I'm such a big, I grew up being such a big fan of his. I love the way he fights, so fun to watch. And I just feel like our styles, it works well for me. Like the fight, it works good for me. And he's a huge name. It'll be a fun fight. I think it'll be a fun fight for fans, a good fight for me. And that'd be, if a win over him doesn't get my name anywhere, then I don't know what will.
Yeah, that would definitely push the envelope. What is that? So I know you've had a little bit of it with Melendez, and I've heard like Dan Hardy talk about, both Dan Hardy and Michael Bisping talk about stepping across the ring from GSP and just being like, holy shit, I'm literally standing across from a dude that I really looked up to before. And I'm not sure if you looked up to Melendez, but he certainly has a resume that it's like, if you look through his resume, you're like, wow, like he's fought pretty much everyone. How does that feel to have that experience?
It was exactly that, like that same thing. Because I remember I grew up watching him as well. Like when he was strike force guy, like he was killing it. Like he was doing great. He fought everyone, and it was kind of the same thing as well. Because he was on a bit of a losing streak when I fought him, but his losing streak was like, this guy is like elite at this level. This guy ex-champion here. This, it was never like some random guy just blowing out the water. It was like Pettis, it was people like that, So I didn't take anything from that, and it gave me a lot of confidence, sort of believing in myself. Because when I got in there, I wasn't like overwhelmed. I wasn't thinking, oh, this guy's ex-Strikeforce champion. He's he's this, he's that. I was just sort of thinking, I'm going to beat this guy, and it gave me a lot of confidence and let me believe in myself a lot more.
That's awesome, man. Because you could slip into. You could get overwhelmed by the fact that, whether it's Melendez or Zombie or, someone else in that top 10, you look at Jeremy Stevens, you look at the resume and you can get swept up in the story and be like, oh my God, these guys, they've seen every,body. But you looked across the ring and you're just like, you know what? I like my chances.
And also like, I always feel like when even if it's the gym or fight or whatever, if the task ahead of me is tougher, or like on paper it's a bigger challenge, I find I'll rise to that more than if it was someone people were like, oh, it's an easy fight, I was going to kill him or whatever, like walk in the park. And same thing for sparring. Like I'll spar with guys that are amateurs sort of coming up or whatever. They're good, but they're like getting clipped with shots, and as they're scoring things on me, I'm thinking, what am I doing? And then I'll go with another guy who's, say, I don't know, top 10 in whatever weight class division. And I know this guy's really good, so I'm switched on. I'm like, right, I have to bring my A game here. It was the same when I used to work with, I used to spar with a lot of pro boxers back in England, and like, you know, I should have never been doing good in the rounds with these guys because they're elite level pros, boxers, and I'm just the random MMA guy coming into their gym to do some rounds. But then that would always be when I brought my best work.
Yeah, dude, there is that dynamic, right? Where it's like the younger guy is probably thinking about that sparring session all week, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and there's that is like the biggest, even if it's a sparring session in the gym, that's the biggest fight of their career, right?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah, and for you, it's just like the next thing I got to do today. I got to step in the ring with this dude, and you could have, you might not be as up as as he is for that. And the same when you're on the other side of it, when you're sparring with a good boxer, you're like super looking forward to that, wanting to match him or whatever, and they might not be at the same level of focus, excitement, commitment locked in as you. So it happens, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. Like, you get an early night's sleep, you eat your bowl of porridge and all that, and you make sure you turn up ready. So yeah.
And he's still out. He's still out at the club. He comes to the gym with last night's clothes on.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Yeah.
And now you're that guy.
Yeah.
The young guys have been like eating their porridge, early on, getting a good night's sleep because they're. And not to say you're the old guy, but you're the experienced. You're the veteran. You've been in the game for that long, so that's amazing. So you have both perspectives.
Yeah,
for
100%.
sure.
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
dude. Yeah, it's
Thank you.
been awesome to spend some time with you, and it's going to be super exciting to watch your journey. I hope when are you looking to get something this year? Has there been any, can you leak any information? Has there been any conversation about I might be looking at this time of year or that type of thing?
Yeah, it's just as soon as possible. That's the conversation. So yeah.
Nice, amazing, dude, amazing. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. We love MMA, we love the UFC, and even more, we're English guys doing this podcast out of the UK, and then we really appreciate you coming on and talking to us, dude. You're an absolutely incredible fighter who has had an awesome career, and we can't wait to see you, get into those top 5 and start causing some chaos and bringing the UK name into the featherweight division as well, dude. So thank you so much for spending some time with us. Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. And quickly, guys, as always, for Homie and the Dude, thank you all for watching. Go check out enzomartialarts.com. Use the promo code HATD. Also, guys, for us, hit us with the Holy Trinity. You know what it is. Like and follow on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube, and share one of our podcasts or posts on any of your social media. Cool. That's it for me.
Thanks, Arnold. Good luck, brother.
Thanks,
Yep. We'll see you soon, man.
Right.
We're chugging through. We're loving doing this stuff for you guys. If you want to support us, if you want to make sure that we can keep getting, better quality set, better quality lights, make the filming better.
Bigger batteries for the camera.
Bigger batteries for the camera.
Yes.
All that kind of stuff. You can do that by just liking, following the page, and subscribing to the YouTube channel. That is what really makes a difference to us.